Hello there. I'm Bernie Miklasz, and this is, of course, the Bernie Show presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. I hope you had a good weekend. I certainly hope you had a better weekend than the St. Louis Cardinals. Welcome to welcome to STL Sports Central, where I do all my videos and columns from Monday through Friday. I also appear with my good friend Randy Carricker on his show every Friday morning. You can access all of that, including the podcast version of the Bernie Show videos at STL Sports Central. You can catch me frequently on KMOX 104.1 FM or AM 1120. And I jump on Cardinal territory once or twice a week with Katie Wu, the Athletic. Today's topic: Cardinals are showing us who they are. That seems to be the reality. After losing 3 of 4 games in the series at Milwaukee, the Cardinals are 1-7 since winning the first 2 games of the Dodgers series. The Redbirds have now lost 4 of their last 5 series. They have now dropped 5 of their last 8 series. And if you I won't go into the numbers here. Maybe I'll put it in my column later, but they've actually been the worst team in the NL Central for a little while now. It's kind of a sudden change from where they were flying high not too long ago. This unraveling has shoved the Cardinals into a third-place tie with the Reds in the NL Central standings. You know, the Cardinals, who trailed the first-place Cubs by 1 game less than a month ago, back on May 19th, are 7 games out after going through their worst week of the season that started with getting swept at home by Toronto, then going to Milwaukee and losing 3 out of 4. Now, listen, the Cardinals are reasonably close in the wild card jockeying, but at this point, there's no point really in kind of like monitoring standings. I mean, I mentioned them, but to kind of obsess over the standings, because they got to start playing better. They got to start winning, and all the things that have gone wrong need to get better. Then we can talk about the standings in a positive way. Things have changed in a hurry since everyone was hyperventilating, going cuckoo after the Cardinals took 2 out of 3 games from a Dodgers team that at that time was in a downturn. For the teams that aren't elite, the long season has a way of pulling them back down to reality. Is this what we're seeing with the Cardinals? Is it hello reality time? When the Cardinals were winning, we spent a lot of time wondering if, hey, is this real? Are they for real? Are they good? Are they proving that they're good? Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, it looks like it. Was their success a lasting thing, or was it just kind of a fluke thing? Sure, I sure liked what I was seeing from the Cardinals back then, and I said they were a good team at that time because they were. But I also said a few other things, and I know many of you felt the same way. It's nothing is wrong with applauding a team for going off on a beautiful run of baseball that was exciting and inspirational and just a lot of fun. What, are you supposed to withhold having fun when the team's winning and just kind of sit there like that? No, enjoy it while it lasts, right? But like I've always, tried to say, throughout the course of this, Cardinals had to prove they were a good team. It doesn't happen in 2 or 3 weeks, right? You get hot. That doesn't prove anything. It might show you what you're capable of doing, but you still have to maintain reality, because teams that are not established powers are going to be viewed with suspicion, and a winning streak doesn't make them special. And that's because you got to play 162, and over 162, we will know for sure. The other thing is, how will the Cardinals, or any team that goes through this, that where not much was expected of the team going into the season started poorly, then all of a sudden it's just like win, 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 win. And then boom, now they're just knocked down like flat on their back. It's been bad here lately with the Cardinals, and we all know that. So the question is, they responded pretty well, or very well, after they got off to I think they won 10 of their first 25 games. And metaphorically speaking, now they've been slapped around. And metaphorically speaking, every team gets up to dance when they're winning. They feel good. Everyone's hyper and happy and moving around. But if an average or mediocre team spirals after these good times, then maybe the good times were just a one-time party. You know me, I like to mix music in, and I like it from all eras. May I briefly quote, based on what I just said about the dancing and the party? May I briefly quote from a 1967 song by Jim Morrison in the Doors? Why, thank you. I think I will. I won't sing though. When the music's over, turn out the lights. And then Morrison went on to say, for the music is your special friend. So dance on fire as it intends. Music is your only friend until the end. All right. That's our reading from Jim Morrison. Anyway, I don't know if this is the end, my friends. I don't think it is, because there's still a lot of ball to play, and there's a lot of ball to play before you get to the All-Star break. And so we'll talk about that a little later. Like I said recently on a video, a team's never as good as they appear to be during their hottest time of the season. But when an ordinary team falls apart for a couple of weeks, that doesn't mean they're going to stay down forever. The baseball season, as we know, is a series of cycles. You're up, you're down, winning, losing, spinning around. Simple as that. So, yeah, there's no reason for me to make any breathless declarations about where the Cardinals will wind up. I think they're better than they've shown here lately. But, yeah, you'd have to be, the team, like the captain of Team Redbird, to think that like somehow they're going to rise up and start winning 14 out of 17 again or whatever. It just looks like a whole different team right now. And so it's up to them to change that. It's up to them to change that. I mean, we're just going to sit back and evaluate them and grade them and judge them based on the bottom line. And that's the way it always should be. And the thing that's everything's kind of hitting them at once. Their weaknesses have come to the surface in a real way. And in my second segment, I'm going to go through a short list of the Cardinals' problem spots. And these problems, basically have started to form and fester starting in late May, like the last part of May. But first, I want to tell you about DraftKings and their daily Pick Six game. DraftKings covers a wide variety of sports, so you can pick the sports that you like and you follow. But if you think you know Major League Baseball, for example, it's time to put that knowledge to use to win big cash prizes through the daily Pick Six contest. And DraftKings Pick Six, you just focus on player stats, either pitcher or hitter. You select anywhere from 2 to 6 players. They don't have to be all from the same team. So you pick 2 to 6 players. You choose whether that individual player we're going to go higher or lower on a specific stat set for his next game by DraftKings. Yeah, Pick Six is that simple, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy playing it. So here's an invitation to get in the game and take your best shot at winning money. Pick Six is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. You'll enjoy tracking your selected players while the games are in progress. It's like you got your own game going on, watching how your squad's doing. But the most entertaining part is winning at DraftKings, and you can do that. It's easy to get going. The app is great, so just download the DraftKings app and open an account. Choose a sport, pick your players, and go for it. New players at DraftKings get $50 in Pick Six credits instantly, which is a $5 entry. So download the DraftKings Pick Six app now and use the code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick Six credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick Six credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, let's roll into the second segment of the Bernie Show for this Monday, June the 16th. The Cardinals are coping with multiple issues these days, and I'll briefly recap each area. First, the starting rotation has a 5.54 ERA over the last 19 games. That is the worst in the National League and 28th overall since May the 26th. What I'm telling you is, yes, the Colorado Rockies have had better starting pitching than what we've seen from the Cardinals over their last 19 games. That's enough to kind of make you go like this, right? Overall, the bullpen has been fine, but listen, I'm not going to do the soft serve ice cream thing like other media when it comes to Ryan Helsley. He is deteriorating. Opposing hitters continue to destroy his four-seam fastball, and it's a huge problem. And it's going to be really interesting as we get close to the trade deadline to see how the Cardinals view Helsley, or whether there's going to be a heavy magnitude of interest in him, considering how off form he is. All right, let's move to the next one. Offensively, the Cardinals have averaged 3.7 runs in their last 16 games. They have been held to 3 runs or fewer in 9 of the 16 and limited to 2 runs or less in 8 of the 16. They were dreadful. I mean, dreadful in the Milwaukee series in the 3 losses when batting with runners in scoring position. Just absolutely awful. And that's what cost them the game yesterday. Really bad at bats in the 9th inning yesterday by Walker and Scott and Wynn. Just awful at bats, where the Cardinals had a chance to take the lead, tie the game, take the lead. Anyway, too many individual hitters are slumping. Over the last 16 games, 5 lineup regulars have performed below the league average offensively based on adjusted runs created. And all of these guys are at minimum 18% below league average over this time. Some, like Lars Nootbaar, are off the cliff entirely. But all of these guys are below the league average offensively over the last 16 games. Lars Nootbaar, Victor Scott, Mason Wynn, Brendan Donovan, and Nolan Arenado. And, of course, Brendan Donovan's back, but he has been bothered by a sprained toe. We'll see how he does. But maybe we should have expected him to cool down a bit. I still have a lot of confidence in him. But the bottom line is they've had 5-6 hitters that just aren't getting anything done as of the last 2+ weeks. As I discussed here last week, the Cardinals roster construction is a large factor in the erosion of this offense. Manager Oli Marmol doesn't have viable options on the bench to jumpstart the dead battery. And the front office has not reached to AAA, for example, to do something they could do, promote the rookie infielder Thomas Saggese. They could do that. There'd be enough way to give him enough playing time, move him around the infield. Maybe putting Brendan Donovan in the corner outfield from time to time. But Oli Marmol doesn't seem like he wants to do that. I guess that's okay, because he's prioritizing defense, and that's not a bad thing to remind your players and everyone else. Defense really, really matters with a pitching staff that does not strike hitters out. So speaking of the defense, it's still among the best in the majors overall for the entire season. But there has been slippage in their count of defensive run saves, and I've been tracking that as things roll along. And the Redbirds have been assessed with 11 unearned runs in their last 19 games. That's uncharacteristic, and it's also damaging to a limited pitching staff that, again, doesn't have the big-time swing and miss or strikeout power. So what does this all mean? I think it means a lot for some people involved, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But first, I want to encourage the guys out there who may be in a slump themselves. And there's nothing wrong with a slump. The only thing wrong with a slump, unless you let it continue on and on without doing something about it, right? That's where Blue Chew comes in. Gentlemen, Blue Chew can help you get going with a boost that leads to pleasurable and fulfilling life with your significant other. And that's great for the both of you, not just you, for the both of you. And this applies to men of all ages, but especially, I think, those who are in my age range, which is over 60. This issue impacts a lot of men. And listen, I know all about it. That's why I have no hesitation to tell you about Blue Chew, because I know what it does for me. And I want you to discover the benefit. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for enhanced intimacy. Think of Blue Chew this way: chew it and do it. Simple as that. You'll get your first month of Blue Chew free. You're just a few clicks away, and it's really easy to get started. You sign up at bluechew.com. You consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. It's all done online. No doctor's office, no appointments, no awkward conversations, no walking into the pharmacy and see it all crowded and it's just kind of a zoo. No. You just order online at home and you're good to go. We got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use promo code Bernie, and you just pay $5 shipping. Blue Chew products made in the USA. That's promo code Bernie. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the Bernie Show. All right, let's get into the third segment of Monday's Bernie Show. I'm glad to be back with you on this Monday. I always look forward to like coming out of the gate and running my mouth on this Bernie Show video. As I said earlier, the Cardinals are showing us who they are, and it's up to them to change the trajectory of the season, just as it was up to them to change the trajectory of the season early on when they were 5 games under 500, and they were able to do it. Can they do it again? I can't assume that they'll rebound with that kind of authority as they did earlier. But again, sometimes I fail in my job because, this is hot take America. You're supposed to just have everything, just an instant hot take to try to, see if you can out hot take everybody else, right? I'm one of these guys that says I'm pragmatic. I also don't see any reason to start spouting opinions I don't believe in just to get views or whatever. I really don't roll that way. And I never have, and I never will. But when I got a spicy opinion, I'll deliver the spicy opinion. But sometimes the smart thing to do is just say, I'd like to tell you what I think is going to happen to the Cardinals the rest of the way. But I'm not going to, just like I think we all, including me, got carried away when they were winning, maybe overrated them or, what they were truly capable of sustaining. But again, you enjoy winning. So yeah, it's okay to have those feelings, but I'm also not going to crush this team and bury this team based on a really, really bad week of baseball. Right. So what I'm trying to say is we'll see. And that's a failure. That is a failure in today's sports media culture. You can't say, we'll see. I don't know. You can't do that, except I do it because why? It's honest. That's how I feel. Except for the 2 wins over the Dodgers, the Cardinals are 2-10 in June, and they have lost 11 of 16 games since May 30th. And the Cardinals also have the worst record in the NL Central. Yeah, even worse than the Pirates during the month of June. In their best stretch of the season, listen to this one, because this kind of, it sort of extracts that really great stretch. And we talk about what was before and what was after, So in their best stretch, the Cardinals were 14-3, but except for that 14-3, for all the other games in the season, 55 games, you take the 14-3 out, you're left with 55 games. And the Cardinals in those games are 23-32. That's a .418 winning percentage. I'm just saying, do we think the reality of the Cardinals in 2025 is that hot streak, or was it the stuff that came before and after the hot streak to this point? I think that's a really good question to ponder. But once again, we don't have a firm answer on this because we've seen this team go like that, right? Up and down and all over the place. Just when you think you got them figured out, they go the opposite way. The Cardinals went, here's another one in terms of like extracting maybe their best month, but looking at the bigger picture. So the Cardinals went 19-8 in May, but in the other months of the season, March and April, and now June, they've won only 18 of 45 games. That's a .400 winning percentage. What's the closest thing to reality? The hot streak, or was May the reality? Was the hot baseball the reality, or what's closer to the reality? The fact that they're 18-27 in games that were not played in May? You can decide on your own, but I'm putting it out there because, I'll always go with the larger sample size, and the larger sample size tells me it can change, but it tells me the Cardinals are closer. They're not as bad as winning 18 of 45, but I would say that's more realistic than the 19-8 May. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll admit I'm wrong. My point is May was great, but maybe May was the peak of the season. That's baseball. It happens to a lot of teams in all markets. The Cardinals' recent downfall also changes the perceptions of a few individuals. Lars Nootbaar, I talked about him Friday, and he since has been benched. And benched, didn't even play the last 2 games in Milwaukee. And, that's That's really something when they already kind of shorthanded and they don't have much of a bench. 2 or 3. So we don't know Lars Nootbaar, the perception of him has changed for sure. This is just awful. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did a video saying that the so-called reset runway transition season was going pretty well for team president of baseball operations, John Mozeliak. And it was true at the time. At the time, it was going well. But but baseball always comes back. It always intervenes and sort of polices you, right? They always say, "Hey, man, long season. You're gonna play really good for a while, but come on, eventually you resort to your true level, whatever that true level may be for each team." So yeah, at that time, Mo was looking pretty good with his plan, right? But that was when the starting pitchers were doing an above average job instead of being in the bottom 5 as they've been for the last 2+ weeks. That was when the Cardinals had a lot of hitters coming through to help the team score plenty of runs. That was before the Cardinals started losing 1-run games again. Remember their first 5 1-run games of the season, they were 0-5. Then they started winning and winning and winning. I think they've lost their last 4 1-run games. So they're losing the 1-run games again. And their record against winning teams, currently teams that have a winning record currently, is below 500 again. Not that Mozeliak received much of a popularity boost because he didn't when the Cardinals were winning. He's still the number 1 piñata in St. Louis pro sports, and he will be until he officially hands off to Chaim Bloom. But I think people at that time, maybe I ought to speak for myself. It's like, well, Mo, but we were all on Mo because he really couldn't define what the season was all about. We expected the worst. And actually, hey, they look pretty good. So this makes Mo look pretty good. Then, because again, your season is more than just one hot streak. Not long ago, manager Oli Marmol was getting a lot of praise, deservedly so. But with the Cardinals collapsing, Marmol's popularity is going to be receding, if it hasn't, to previous levels, because it's up to him in a lot of ways. It's really up to the players. But you have a manager for a reason, and he and the coaches got to do everything they can to get this team going again. The way they did earlier this season when they were 5 games under 500, they came out of the gate really bad. The Cardinals' winning stretch had raised hopes and expectations. And see, that's kind of a dangerous thing for a manager who's not all that popular, right? So once you raise hope and expectations, fans and media expect the success to continue. Yeah, it'll cool down. But it's one thing to cool down. It's an entirely different thing to collapse. And that, again, that's dangerous for a manager because there was a lot of talk in our town. Oh, the Cardinals are contenders. They're contenders. Okay, so when you're going from like, this team's not going to do anything this season, and then like, hey, they're contenders. Well, when they fall apart, the manager is going to catch a lot of guff, man. I mean, the manager is going to get blasted. That's just the way it is. Life in the big sport, right? So are the Cardinals contenders? I don't even want to go into that. Technically, by the numbers, sure they are, but they haven't looked like a contender, not anything close to it, since this season began to flip upside down again. It started with that series in Texas, where that was the final couple days of May, and then the Sunday game was the first day of June. When a team sours, fans look to the manager and hold him responsible for the losing of baseball games, a lot of them in a short time. Now, it's never as simple as that, but I can't blame anyone, and I'm not going to blast anyone for being ticked off at Marmol or anyone else. If this team continues to wallow in the mire, what is this? Why am I quoting Jim Morrison again? My brain works in strange ways. Anyway, if this team continues to wallow in the mire, we will see Oli reappear on those hot seat lists again. It's already starting. It's kind of funny in a way how quickly, like some of these national bloggers, it's like he's winning. It's like, well, he could be a strong manager of the year candidate. And now it's just like, well, will he survive? This all happened within like, I'm exaggerating. It went from, well, maybe the manager of the year to, well, Pujols is out there. That changed in like 28 minutes, right? Again, hot take media. I'm guilty of it at times. I try to avoid it. The Cardinals have 25 games to go before the All-Star break. And then after the break, they'll have 13 more games to go before the trade deadline. The buzzer sounds, the horn goes off, it's over on the final day of July. There is time for a turnaround if you want me to try to be somewhat optimistic, not optimistic, but is there time for a turnaround? Well, yeah, there's time for a turnaround. But the worst thing the Cardinals can do, other than losing and losing and losing, is trying to convince themselves that they are better than they really are. And that's how some bad mistakes can be made at the trade deadline. The Cardinals have, it's been a really strange season in a way. We didn't expect much. They got off to a bad start. Then they were great. They lifted us up. Now they've let us down again, just in terms of our emotions and just sort of the positive nature of how we see them, up and then down. They weren't supposed to win and contend in 2025, so maybe we should accept them for who they are in a season that was set aside for priorities that didn't have anything to do with, hey, let's be aggressive, let's strengthen the roster, let's take our best shot at winning. It was never supposed to be that, and they made it clear it wasn't supposed to be that. And just because they got hot, it doesn't mean all of a sudden you change your objectives that you stated over and over again before the season. And I'm going to have more on this in a video soon because I've sort of have a follow-up to this. Anyway, as we talked about the time before the All-Star break and then the trade deadline, the clock's running. The clock is running. And that's why I was just laughing at all these people like constantly writing. It's like, are there sellers or buyers? You know, it's like May, okay? I kept saying we got a long way to go. You know, just hold off, champ. Hold off on those things, Buster. You know, got a long time. It'll all sort itself out. But the clock is running, and we're entering the reality check stage of the season. And I don't know what the reality is going to be. I know that right now the reality check is kind of ominous, and it's up to the Cardinals to change it, just as they changed it earlier this season. But can they do it again? Don't know. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Please leave your comments. I read them. I appreciate them. And we appreciate DraftKings for presenting the Bernie Show here on STL Sports Central. Thank you very much.